Audrey Arbeeny, thank you so much for joining me at Lingofest. It's a privilege and an honor. And let me just say that I have never spoken, let alone interviewed somebody who has won multiple Emmy awards. So it's a privilege on top of a privilege on,
Thank you.
on top of a lot of things. So, so let me ask you this question, which I think is not
Sure.
as easy to answer as one may think, which is, let's say you are taking an Uber ride. I'm sure you have done this. And
I
then
take an Uber ride like every day.
every day,
So,
right? Okay, so this probably maybe is an easy answer or an easy question. The Uber ride, and it's the person is chatty, right? I don't know if you have such people in New York, in Manhattan, chatty Uber folks, but maybe once in a while let's assume there is a chatty Uber driver and they ask you, so what do you do for a living? What would you say to such a person who has no idea there is, let's assume they have no idea what is sonic branding. What would you say?
well, usually if it's an Uber driver, I say I do music production because I want to just end the conversation there. And I don't want to have to explain sonic branding and the whole thing. So the
Okay.
Uber driver would get a different
Okay.
answer than someone like you would.
Okay.
Nothing against Uber drivers.
No, I understand because yeah, it is definitely gets involved and all that. But would that answer be? Let's just look at that particular answer. How close is that to what you do, like music production? I'm sure it touches quite a bit on what you do as a sonic brander. But how central is music to what you do?
Well, sonic branding is actually a holistic approach
Mm-hmm.
to a brand's music, sound, voice, and vibration, and leveraging it across all relevant touch points. Music production is the creation of one of those things. So sonic branding is a whole holistic system. Music production is what we do to create sonic branding.
Yeah.
We have to produce the music, we have to produce the voice, we have to produce the sound, you have to produce the sound effects, but we also do discovery, research, competitive analysis, strategic development, technical understanding, technical optimization, file format, size, how we're going to implement it, what opportunities exist.
Yeah.
So music production is what we have to do those things.
Gotcha. Okay, well let's shift the scenery and say you were at let's say post COVID. I don't know if it will ever happen, but let's say we are in that world and you are in a conference of chief branding officers. I don't know if they have such a thing. They must, right? So these folks, they understand branding, and so you are at the cocktail party, like let's say after hours, after the conference, and you're chatting, get up with branders. So that conversation will be different, I guess, right? And so these folks, for them, when they hear brand, or most of them, they think visual, right? And so what kind of a conversation would you have with them? How would you tell them what you do? Let's say they've never heard of sonic branding, but they are brand people.
Well, I would say to them, sonic branding is signature sound across a multitude of touch points. Mm-hmm. That's not meaning just to sound signature. That makes a brand immediately recognizable. Mm-hmm. That brings authenticity, uniqueness, awareness, and connects emotionally with the audience, internal and external. And it also helps capture, the essence of the brand with sound.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, it's immediate.
It's immediate. Yeah. And so I'm sure you've had conversations with brand folks, right? People who do branding in the non-audio every day. And so what kind of things like trip them? Like, That's interesting, right? Like what kind of things they say, well, that's very different from what I do. That's interesting. Tell me more. What surprises somebody who isn't visual when they think of branding? They think visual, but not audio. Or do they all, are sophisticated enough to know that there is such thing as audio branding? You think?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and I spoke at a conference. And these were top branding people. These were top voice people. These were, AI people. And I gave a presentation on sonic branding. And they were like, oh my God, that's so amazing. Why aren't more people doing that? That's wow. And I'm saying to myself, wow, how do you not know about this at the level that you're at? How don't you know about this? Because it's so, it parallels a visual identity system. If you're doing a visual identity or branding system, it's the other side of the coin. It's visual. You have a visual identity system, visual branding, sonic branding, scent branding.
Yeah, definitely.
That they would have been, their jaws were dropped. And my jaw was dropped because I couldn't comprehend how people of that level, and average person that doesn't work in the industry, the Uber driver or someone like that, I can understand not understanding what this is and being so blown away by it.
Right.
But someone who works in branding being so blown away by it at this point in time just kind of surprised me quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, so how would you explain that phenomenon? Why is it the case that these folks are they haven't thought about it, or it's not a thing, and then you sort of like shape it for them, saying there is a thing, and here are the dimensions of it. Why do you think that's the case? Like are we so visually centric? You think maybe?
I think what happens is, I think there are many people that do understand it. Believe me. I have had a call this morning, and we're doing sonic branding across probably 65 different touch points of this brand, so that it's all unified and that it represents what the brand stands for. It represents the brand's attributes. So there are many people that do understand it. That's what I didn't understand, because in my world, there's a lot of people that understand it. And yet, when I spoke, there were people that were kind of like, wow, that's surprising. I think sometimes with a brand, they're very used to being visually focused. So you'll have your font, your typography, your photography, you'll have copy, you'll have advertising, you'll shoot an ad. All these things are more, to a degree, very tactical. And sonic branding is very holistic. It is very long term. And it requires a different approach, even though it lives in the same territory. So where you wouldn't have your font be different on every different thing you're doing, or your logo change on everything you're doing, why wouldn't you have a consistent tone and feel to your sound? And that doesn't mean Intel Inside, Intel Inside, Intel Inside. This is a whole sonic box of Crayola crayons.
Yeah.
So you have certain attributes to a brand, and then we articulate them with music and sound. We'll create a sound logo, but we'll create executive walk-ons. We'll create room warming soundtracks. We'll create different things for different demographics, for different parts of the world. We'll, if someone in Dubai wants to change the guitar from the UK to an oud, you know, it's a whole system once it's set up. And I think that they're just very accustomed to, this is the color, this is the photography, this is the lighting, this is the alternate colors, this is the alternate font, this is the way we write our copy. It's very formulated.
Okay. Okay, got it. Makes sense. And so, when these folks they do video, I'm sure they do video, right? They've been doing video for a while, and obviously, video has an audio component, a sonic component to it. Have they been mindful, you think, of that dimension, to make sure that it reflects their brand, or they just have been doing it in an ad hoc way in general, in your opinion?
I think they are mindful that it reflects the brand within the scope of the ad.
Yeah, I see. So
and
let's
then
say,
you'll look at the next ad.
Right.
You know, we'll line up all of their assets, their call center, the voices that they use.
Yeah.
And there's a lack of consistency often.
Yeah.
That it doesn't have to be the same exact thing. It has to have the same feeling.
Right.
That you hear it and you immediately know what brand it is.
Yeah. And so there are two things really that are happening. Like, one of them is consistency across the various manifestations of audio. And then there is the second one, which is the correspondence of that, that set of audios to the brand, right? So, let's say Capital One has multiple commercials. The commercials, they should all be consistent in terms of how they sound, more or less, but they all should reflect the brand itself, right?
Yes.
So tell me about the process of, let's say, just take Capital One. Are they a customer of yours? I just want to take somebody who's not a customer of yours so we can play with them in terms of experiment. No, they are? Okay, well, let's pick USA Bank. Are they a customer?
Who?
USA Bank.
USAA?
USA. Isn't that a USA Bank or USAA? USAA. Let's say USAA, right? They're not a customer.
Okay.
You're not, right? Okay. Or do you want to take something else other than a bank? Let's take Giant Food.
No, USAA or bank, or
Okay.
They're fine.
Okay. So let's say they have a bunch of videos and they've done a more or less decent job of having some kind of consistency. Let's say the voice talents don't sound different from each other in the rhythm. But how do you go about saying, okay, it's good that you guys have consistency, but this doesn't fit your brand? How would you go about, how do you engage a company that hasn't thought really explicitly in a holistic way and consistent way about their audio brand, and they have some assets out there? How do you go about convincing them that we need to sit down and think about your brand independently of its manifestation, and we need to figure out how you sound? What kind of a conversation would that be? Like, what methodology would you use to be able to figure out something that sounds like the brand, which is an interesting concept?
We have a process.
Okay.
And I've been doing this for 25 years.
Yep.
So many of our processes we've developed. We had there was no school for it. There was no model to follow. There were about 6 companies that were doing it at the time. And what you do is you say, what does your brand sound like? Does it represent, the characteristics of your brand? Mm-hmm. If your brand is dependable. What kind of dependable is it? Every brand has a voice, and you want to be heard. And if you look at a brand like Apple, where they started out saying think different, and they kept that consistent for a long time, or HBO, where you know what it is. And what you want to do is you want to get them to understand, who are you? What's your personality? And so when I teach my students, I'm like, okay, I want you to brand yourself. I want you to bring me in a piece of music, a sound that represents who you are. And they will never come in with one. They'll come in with 3 or 4, because there's different facets to their personality. And then when you blend those together, you get a very unique sound. And with most brands, I often will just say to them, you're using sound anyway. Why wouldn't you want it to be the right sound? Yeah. Why wouldn't it want to be you? Why wouldn't you want it to sound like what you want people to take away from you? There are brands out there that I don't understand why they're using the music they're using, or the sound that they're using, or the voice that they're using. So I had a situation where I was doing a sound audit for a beer company, and they had these very provocative ads on the Super Bowl years ago. And the next day we did a call center audit, and they were like, "Oh, how can I help you?" You know, like it just sounded like a 75-year-old chain smoker, and it was completely off brand from what they had just had on the television. So that's not branding. That's just an asset. That's just a sound asset. It's a missed opportunity. Yeah. But I find with our clients, and we have 100% return rate, once they do one initiative, they completely get it. Yeah. Because it's not like that they disagree. They just don't think about it.
I haven't thought about it. Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. So, but how does one, let's say, for example, Netflix, are they a client of yours? If they're not, can I use them as an
example? I wish.
Okay. maybe when they see this video, they'll jump to their feet and they will call you. But let's say Netflix, right? So Netflix for me has a feel, right? I have a feel. When I think of Netflix, I have a feel. I have a feeling about Netflix, right? Now,
yep.
All right. I mean, some of them it's very. I mean, the feeling is strong. Some of them it's not as strong, but they all have a feel. This one has a real feel to it, right? And so I'm just trying to sort of do a thought experiment in my mind. How would I? Let's say I was the guy in the marketing team who is going to work with you to figure out the sound. I mean, they already have some sound, right? They have right. But what is? How do I translate that? Which is pretty. I mean. Sound is not language, right? And so the challenge here is, in a way, how do I describe that brand in language? I think your exercise is, that's not how you do it. Bring me some sound, because that sort of reflects, right?
What we do is we work with them.
Yeah.
We check out their competitors. We read their mission statement. We talk with their employees. We look at their advertising. We listen to their call. We everything. We read everything about them, and then we have what we call a brand filter. These words, representative of you. Yes, no, yes, no. Okay. From there, we have processes that we've developed. So the next thing we do is they have a characteristic like health first. And we play different things that represent health first, that sound like health first, but they're all different ways of saying that.
Yeah.
You could take something, let's make it easy. Simple. You could say simple a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
What are they gravitating towards? Which one feels like them?
Mm-hmm.
And then we take another characteristic that's strong for them. And which, they could say something as simple as, I like the tempo of that. Or that's too old sounding for us.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's too edgy for us. And
Mm-hmm.
we start to get some feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, our composers then start writing concepts around what they like, putting them together, taking those qualities that they've said that they feel represents their brand. And when they're blended together, they will sound like that brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they have different options, but it will sound like that brand because it's things that resonated with them.
Yeah, makes sense. And so you said when you go about doing your empirical research, you engage obviously more than just the execs, right? You engage the employees or you engage the customers, as opposed to, I'm just trying to think, is it a situation where you have two folks who have assigned themselves as the folks who know the brand and they sort of describe it to you? Well, you said there's a process. It's sort of inclusive, right? It brings in a lot of folks as opposed to just the execs, right? Yeah.
Oh no, customers.
Customers.
It's
Yeah.
all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do is to create like a brand blueprint.
Yeah.
This is the foundation of the house of the sound of the brand. Because if you one off everything, you're building your sonic house like loose sticks.
Yeah.
They don't have any real value. If you create your sonic blueprint, like this is what our sounds are, these are the elements we use, these are the type of instruments we use. You're missing opportunities if you don't do that. Not only that, you're not laying out something that leads to sonic branding guidelines, so teams around the world know how to be consistent.
Yeah. So part of your deliverable, I guess, let's say it's a brand that's been around for a couple of decades. They've never done sonic branding in any consistent manner. They pull you in, they see the lights, you upgrade, so to speak, their brand, you make it like consistent and reflecting their brand and so on. And then you also, I guess, do you engage with their team to sort of teach them about how to, let's say, if they want to create another video, what they do, right? Right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do. And we're the compass. We don't really, occasionally we'll tell them that's not really gonna work very well for what you're saying and what you're gravitating towards. Well, we wouldn't write it. But once they go through this process, we do all the heavy lifting. We need brand materials from them. We need a very strong kickoff meeting. We need input. We need their feedback to the tools. We've built several tools that get us the information we need.
Yeah.
Like someone builds tools that, they need to do their job, a carpenter, whatever. If he doesn't have something, he makes his own tool. And we have tools, trademark tools. We make it as simple for them and enjoyable we're in the middle of something right now, and I got 2 emails this morning, and they're like, this is so much fun.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
they're at the point where they're listening to the mood board and seeing which sounds kind of feel what feels like them, you know.
Yeah.
And
what is it? What did you call it? A mood board?
Sound mood board.
What is that?
It's where it like, let's say, I'll give you an example. Dependable. Say their characteristic is dependable. Dependable is a pretty straightforward thing, but what's dependable for their lens? Now, I'm very dependable. I won't miss a deadline. I will make sure everything is buttoned up, everything is on time, everything is what it needs to be. And I'm pretty assertive with my composers who are in-house. I have a composer who's very dependable. He's very quiet. He's very seamless. I don't even know he's there sometimes. I got to go look. He stays really steady when we're doing the Olympics for NBC. And I'm like, no, move that there, move that there, move that there, and change that. And he just steady as could be.
Yep.
His dependable would sound different than my dependable. So we give them a range of their characteristic and which one gravitates most towards them, you know, for what feels right for them.
Okay. And so what are they listening to something? Sound?
Yeah, they're listening to sounds.
That's fun.
Lots of sounds.
So let's say dependable, and so what kind of things would I hear? Like if somebody's talking?
No, you'd hear music.
Music.
You'd hear music.
So that sort of gives them, like amongst the music, they choose one, and sort of a way of defining dependable without using words in a way, right? That they're dependable. Okay. So you're trying to get into the non-linguistic. That's the fascinating thing here that I find, which is having this communication with them outside of language. Right? Go pick the sound. Oh, this is the sound. Oh, so therefore you guys are the pros, and they say, given that this is the sound, now we have a baseline to work with, and so we know that this sound matches with that, and so on. But it's interesting that, sorry, go ahead.
Well, we also create concepts.
Yeah.
Concepts are longer forms, and concepts work better when we're doing a product sonification. So
like
if we're doing...
What's a concept?
Concept is about a minute long. It's a little less structured than... It could be musical. It could be sound design and have a lot of little elements in it that we're then going to pull to create little sounds. You know?
Yep.
That's another tool that we have.
I see. So from there, you can maybe do chimes and right?
There's lots of little things in there that are saying dependable, are saying this, are saying that.
Yeah.
But in a way that works better for, say, product sonification. So we have a whole bunch of tools that we get the information we need before we start writing. Writing is like third down the list.
Yep. And I think the hardest part is that's where your experience and your tools and all that, that's where all that comes in. It comes in across the board, but initially that's the big hurdle. That's not a commodity, right? That's very hard to sort of try to emulate you guys. You have built not only the tool but also all the expertise to make this part fun for the folks who emailed you this morning, right? It's fun because they're able to sit down and do it in a methodical way, as opposed to an ad hoc way, right? They're listening.
They don't and also at the same time, sometimes they don't necessarily even know why we put that particular piece of music in there.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What we're going for.
Right.
And for us, that is, I would say, one of the more, I mean, that's where you start. That's where you start building the foundation. Once we start writing, we've kind of got an idea of
right.
what they're gravitating towards.
Yeah.
But it's that middle part.
Yep.
That to make it really interesting and insightful and explain to them in simple terms why, you know, a certain sound, when it's a concept, why we put a certain sound in a very simple way that makes it fun for them. For us, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a real lot of work because those sounds, somewhere amongst them, has to capture a starting point for us.
Yeah.
Once we start writing, we're kind of going in the zone of
right. Yep.
foundation is being built.
Yeah.